Hello, welcome to Northampton Economics Tutor website. Today we are looking at the AQA AS Unit 1 Markets and Market Failure. This exam paper is from the summer of 2011. In question number 1, it's all about the PPF and the opportunity cost. So to increase the food production, which is by FG, we'll have to decrease the wheat production by JK. So the answer is B, JK. In question number 2, the governments must intervene in market. Which one of the following is a normative statement? So we know one statement that cannot be tested and is an opinion, which is D. In question number 3, the diagram below shows the demand and supply curve of a merit good. To increase consumption from OQ1 to OQ2, the government should. Now, plain simple, we know merit goods are underconsumed and underproduced. So to bring the consumption to OQ2, to bring the demand over there, the price should fall down to P3. For the producers to supply OQ2, the price should be P2. So the government should subsidize P2, P3 per unit. Therefore, B is the answer. In question number 4, the essential features of an inferior good is that, now we know by definition an inferior good is one whose consumption decreases as the income goes up. So if we look at the formula YED is equal to minus QD, the consumption is decreasing with an increase in production. So minus divided by plus will give us minus. So income elasticity of demand is negative. So D is the answer. In question number 5, the use of money as a medium of exchange enables an economy to benefit from specialization and the division of labor. As I have said before, if a teacher goes to the dentist, he'll have to pay him money to fix up his teeth. And if the dentist's son goes for tuitions, private tuitions to the teacher, he will have to pay him money to use his service. So we can see over here two different professionals providing their services, and the medium of exchange is money. In question number 6, a bit of a mathematical question. We can look over here, bottom 10%, they were earning at least 4.1% of the total income. That has been reduced to 2.5. 9.8 has gone down to 6.8. Similarly, 16 has gone down to 12. So we can say poor are becoming poorer. On the other hand, the top 30%, they have increased their share of income from 47 to 54. Top 20% from 35 to 41. From top 10%, they've gone up to 20 to 26. So rich are becoming richer. So B is the answer. The distribution of income becomes more unequal. In question number 7, an industry's supply curve is more likely to be price elastic in the short term. If we say price elastic, what that means is if the price goes up, then the industry should be able to supply more goods. So we are probably working at A, and at B we have full capacity, so there should be a spare capacity. So if the price is increasing, we should be able to supply more. Hence, B is the answer. In question number 8, left to the free market, good X would not be provided at all. Yet the production and consumption of at least some of good X increases the welfare of society. The government therefore has an incentive to intervene to ensure its provision. Good X is most likely to be a public good. We know defense would not be provided by if left to the markets. Why? It's too expensive for any one single individual to buy. What I've also done over here is I've said merit goods are produced by markets but underproduced and underconsumed, like private education, BUPA, private healthcare services. In question number 9, I've gone on to state the price elasticity of supply, change in quantity supplied over change in price. I've put on the figures over here, which is 20 over 50 times 100, which is the increase in supply. On the other hand, the supply has gone up, the price has gone up, sorry, from 100 to 120, so 20 over 100 times 100, which gives you plus 2. So A is the answer. In question number 10, an indirect tax on the production of a good will have no effect on price if demand is perfectly elastic. And I've given you the diagram to look at this. So we can say demand is perfectly elastic, and we can see a shift, an inward shift in the supply. And what's happened over here is the quantity demanded has decreased, but the price has remained the same. In question number 11, again, I have given you a diagram of there to explain there's a fall in price. Why? Because the supply has moved outwards to S1 and there's the demand. So we're moving along the demand curve, and quantity demand, it has increased to Q1. So the supply curve of the good shifting to the right. Question number 12. Too many diagrams, but what I've done over here is I've given you cross elasticity of demand, that demand for good Y increases if price for good X decreases, and they are complementary goods. Why? Because when the price of good X decreases, the demand for good X will also go up. So if you look over here, good X and good Y, we can see the price has gone down, the demand has increased, and similarly the demand curve for good Y has gone up, or shifted outwards, sorry. So A is the answer. Question number 13 is based on your mathematical skills. It says the government was recently advised that a 40% increase in the price of beer would reduce its beer consumption by the rich by 6% and the beer consumption by the poor by 20%. It can be concluded that demand for beer is price inelastic for both rich and poor. We can look from the figure straight away. 40%, if it was 40% over here, then that would be 1, so it would be elastic. Or 40% over here would be elastic, but it isn't. But what I've done is I've calculated for you as well, and I've said PED less than 1 equals inelastic. Moving on to question number 14. Features of the fundamental economic problem include both trade-offs and conflicting objectives. What I've also done is I've used process of elimination. I've said why A is not the answer, because resources we know are finite. In C, the provision of goods with no opportunity cost, we know that there is an opportunity cost because of the PPF. And we know in part D that it's not limited wants. Our wants are unlimited. I wish I was sitting in Spain and having a pina colada. In question number 15, we have a table. Again, I've used process of elimination. I've said A is not the answer. I've given an example of Bupa, which is a private healthcare. B is not the answer, as poor people will not consume education even if you have minimum prices and they can't afford it. C, petrol is a demerit good as it is overproduced and overconsumed. So it has to be D, the answer. In question number 16, I've said A is the answer. Why? Because at prices P2, farmers will like to supply Y. So they're incentivized to produce OQ2 and are able to all the produce at OP2. So total income is, I've said SP, selling price times quantity, which is OP2 times Q2. So government sets a minimum price of OP2, assuming it buys up all the surplus stock at the minimum prices, farmers' total income will be, as I've said, OP2 times OQ2. In question number 17, I've given you price elasticity of demand, change in QD over change in P, plus 50% divided by 25% equals -2. So C is the answer. In question number 18, it says the table below indicates the private and external costs and benefits resulting from building a coal burning power station. So what I've done over here is I've given you the calculations for MSB, which is PB, private benefits plus external benefits, 180 plus 110, 290. That's your social cost, which is 190 plus 140, 330. The difference is 40 million pounds. So B is the answer. Moving on to question number 19. I have said C is the answer, as the suppliers supply less at lower prices, whatever the demand may be. So we've seen a shift from Q2 to Q1 because the government has put the maximum price at P. So what we can see is Q1, Q2 will also become the excess demand in the market and may lead to a grey market. In question number 20th, I've said C, externalities in consumption and production. So the government intervenes when merit goods are consumed less and demerit goods are overproduced. That's the example I've given you. Question number 21. The table below shows the supply of goods produced by 4 firms. Now when prices increases from £50 to £60 over the price range, which firm A, B, C or D has unitary price elasticity of supply for its good? So what we have to look over here is we need to see first the percentage change between 50 and 60, which is 10 pounds of 50 is 20%. Straightforward, we can see if 100 has increased to 120, which is 20%. So C is the answer. In question number 22, I've used the process of elimination. I've said monopolists take no account of consumer preferences. I say monopolies produces what consumers want. If they would not, then no one would buy from them. I've said C is not the answer, as monopoly charges high for high profits. So they may not be very efficient. Large firms are more efficient than small firms. No, large firms may have diseconomies of scale. They reduce the quantity, or they do not have economies of scale. Why? So B is the answer. Price do not always reflect social cost. In question number 23, I've said MSC is equal to MSB, which is the case over here at OQ. So externalities are accounted for by the markets. It is in the pricing. So D is the answer. In question number 24, I've given you a diagram where I've said supply is at that price, we've got infinite supply, and increase in demand has moved from D1 to D2, and that is why the P. So a small firm is able to buy any amount of raw material on world markets at the same price. This means that it faces a perfectly elastic supply curve for the raw material. In question number 25, the diagram below shows the market demand curve D and two market supply curves S1 and S2 for a good. The initial equilibrium point is at H. The introduction of an indirect tax per unit by the government results in a new equilibrium at point J. So what I've done over here is the taxation which the government has imposed is GJ. We can see this point is what is borne by the suppliers. FE is borne by the consumers. So the amount of the per unit tax is measured by the vertical distance between J and G. So at this is what the consumers are willing to supply, and at that price of F is what the demand is at G.